I'm back with Charis Michaels, who just read from You May Kiss the Duke. This was, as I said, a very fun, combative scene in there's so much denying that they're feeling any attraction towards each other while they're both obviously feeling attraction towards each other. And I found that really fun. And I think it's a really interesting look at, I'm not sure if we want to call it purity culture, but the sexual environment of Regency where, the woman must remain a virgin until she's married and yet the man is exposed to all these different types of sex, and Stoker, growing up with a prostitute as a mother, has this very kind of negative view. He only sees it as a transaction. He has no recognition of the emotional side of it that can make it, positive. At what point did you decide to explore this dynamic, and was it something that you kind of consciously brought to the page, or do you think it came out as you were writing?
Well, when you're going to write a book that has explicit sex, or at least sex described on the page for a chapter or two chapters, I think the way sex is viewed in a larger context is needs to be a really important part of the plot. And so somebody always has a hang up with sex in my books so that we can explore that in addition to just describing the sex that they have, as well as work through it during those love scenes. So Sabine in this book is actually, she's a virgin because she's sheltered, but she's rather adventurous as the book goes along, and he is the one who's stunted and warped. He grew up in a brothel. He then got into the work of rescuing prostitutes with a charity that was explored several books ago in his teen years. So he had a mother who sort of took care of him across the room while she was quote unquote working. And then he busted into all these brothels and rescued prostitutes. So he doesn't come to sex in a way that feels like it can be mutually beneficial. And that's why he's talking about it being transactional. And just from a technical standpoint of writing in any love story, you need really deep conflict. And having a guy with a big hang up on sex is a lot for my characters to chew on and work through. And so, and Sabine was beaten before, not in a sexual way, but just by an uncle who liked to backhand her. So she has a distrust of men that's not tied to sex. And she's only able to actually become emotionally intimately involved with him when he's almost too sick to lift his head. So he's a patient in bed and she's feeding him soup, which he hates, and she's got a footman to come in and sort of take care of his personal needs. But other than that, he's like a invalid and she's having to take care of him. And it's the only way she can get close to a man and not feel like she might be in physical danger. And then when she gets over that, she's ready for more because, of course, even though they were married in one afternoon after hardly knowing each other, there was that instant attraction. And she sort of kept that hidden away. And he loved her from the beginning because it's a Charis Michaels book. And so they both were harboring this incredible attraction, but the plot had to get them to a place where they could start feeling safe enough to explore it. A lot of times in my books, the man has the hang up with the sex, and the purity culture has really affected him more than her. And I'm not really sure what inside me puts it down like that, but I love a buttoned up, uptight guy for whatever reason being unraveled by a bold woman, I guess. And that's what happens in this book.
Yeah, well, I think it's really refreshing to see it be the man who is working through issues in relation to sex, because part of purity culture is heaping all of that responsibility onto the woman's shoulders. We must protect our own virtue. And so for it to be the man's problem is kind of shifting that dynamic in a way that's also real. I mean, you know, men do have sexual hangups in
Yeah,
real life.
and I think he was viewing it as chivalry and his version of honor, even though he didn't see himself as a gentleman. He thought this is the way that I need to be honorable. And it takes a while and it's sort of a fun discovery to figure out actually, if I'm going to do right by her, I'm going to be a stand-up guy, but I'm also going to make sure that she feels pleasure. So I don't, it, it doesn't have to be, there are just so many different, it's a spectrum. And he
Yes.
had to learn that, and that's what we did over the course of the book.
Yeah, that's lovely.